In the beginning of the story, we are shown a person named Marco at nighttime, who had gone to deal with a Russian dealer named Roberto. Marco asks him where his stuff is, after which Roberto signals his nephew to bring the stuff. Now his nephew goes and brings the stuff, and Roberto starts looking at the money. After getting all the money, Roberto takes out the keys of a BMW car and gives them to Marco. He also says that Marco's stuff is in the trunk behind the car. After saying this, something unexpected happens to Roberto, causing blood to start coming out of his mouth, and he falls down. Seeing this, when his nephew tries to run, Marco shoots him with a gun. After this, Marco burns the whole place to destroy the evidence. Then, when he goes and checks the trunk of the car, he finds some dead bodies inside. Among them, he also finds a suitcase. The scene shifts, and we are introduced to the main hero of the movie, Ethan. Here we also see his wife, Nora, who is pregnant. Ethan is very happy about this. At night, both of them get ready and leave for work. They both work at the same airport, although their roles are different. After reaching the airport, Nora blesses Ethan and goes to her station, while Ethan quickly changes into his uniform and attends a meeting. Friends, today is a special day, Christmas, so the airport is expecting a large crowd. Because of this, all the security guards are instructed to be extra careful. During the meeting, their supervisor, Jack, briefs everyone on their duties. Once the meeting ends, everyone starts their work. Here, Ethan meets his friend Jason. Ethan tells Jason that he wants a promotion and doesn't want to keep checking people. Instead, he wants to work on the scanner. Jason suggests that Ethan talk to the supervisor about it. Ethan approaches Jack and politely but repeatedly asks for the promotion. Jack initially refuses, saying that today is too busy and Ethan can't switch roles, but Ethan insists that he can handle it. Jason steps in and offers to swap roles with Ethan for the day, allowing Ethan to take his place on the scanner. Ethan begins carefully scanning all the goods. Meanwhile, outside the airport, a car arrives and stops. Inside, we see a man named Riley. It's revealed that Riley has kidnapped someone and is a highly skilled hacker. He hacks into the airport's entire camera system in one go. Not only that, but Riley has also sent one of his men to Jason's house to kidnap his family. However, Riley is surprised to learn that the person working at the scanner is not Jason, but someone named Ethan. Riley immediately gathers Ethan's entire horoscope and other details. It becomes clear that Riley's plans now depend on Ethan's cooperation. Back at the airport, a girl in Ethan's line tells him that a particular piece of luggage isn't hers. When Ethan inspects it, he finds a small airbot inside. At the same time, a message comes on Ethan's phone, instructing him to place the airbot to his ear. As soon as he does, a man's voice starts speaking to him. The man warns Ethan that if he values his life, he must follow his instructions. Meanwhile, Riley's men search Ethan's house and find a slip belonging to Nora, revealing that she is pregnant. Riley contacts Ethan directly, threatening Nora's life unless Ethan cooperates. He tells Ethan that he doesn't have to do much, just let a specific man with a suitcase pass through security without stopping him. If Ethan does this, both he and Nora will be spared. The man speaking to Ethan through the airbot is not Riley, but someone else entirely. However, Riley is also involved, as he relays Ethan's horoscope and other details to the man Ethan is currently speaking to. The identity of this man remains a mystery for him, but it's clear that Riley and this man are working together to manipulate Ethan into fulfilling their plans. Ethan is convinced that whoever the man on the airbot is, he knows everything about him. He also knows where Nora is right now and what she is doing. Despite this, Ethan tries to outsmart the situation. He slowly takes out his phone and starts calling the police, but Riley immediately becomes aware of it. At the same time, the man on the airbot warns Ethan to disconnect the call immediately, or else his wife will be killed. He reveals that one of his men is pointing an assault rifle at Nora's head. If Ethan doesn't hang up the call right now, his wife will be executed. While the man is explaining this, the call to the police goes through, but Ethan doesn't answer. He can't risk losing Nora because in the life he's living right now, she is all he has. After a moment of intense thought, Ethan disconnects the call. Following the man's instructions, Ethan takes his phone and locks it in a drawer before returning to his seat. Now, Ethan asks the man if he is a terrorist. The man replies, "No, I'm just doing my job. I've been given a task." Ethan presses further, asking what's inside the suitcase. The man dismisses the question, saying, "You don't need to know. Just help me get that suitcase onto the plane. If the suitcase doesn't reach the plane, or if someone opens it, your wife will be killed." He adds, "Your luck is bad because you've taken Jason's place. If Jason were here, he'd be doing the same thing. We've kidnapped his wife and child." Ethan feels the situation is clear, but still tries to outsmart them. He starts typing a message on the smartwatch he's wearing, but Riley once again catches wind of it. Riley immediately informs the man Ethan is speaking to, who then warns Ethan, "Look, I won't give you chances again and again. Delete the message and lock the smartwatch in the drawer." Helpless, Ethan complies. He deletes the message, removes the smartwatch, and locks it in the drawer. This time, he feels completely trapped. He realizes there's nothing he can do from his position, as the people controlling him are watching his every move. The scene shifts, and we see Ethan sitting helplessly, unable to act. Meanwhile, we are introduced to a police officer named Alana. She has just arrived at the scene where Marco killed Roberto and his nephew. The men at the scene provide Alana with an identification card, which begins to unravel the mystery of what happened there. Tom was given the task of extracting the information stored inside the chip. He successfully recovers a recording from it, but there's a problem. The audio in the recording is barely audible due to damage caused by the fire. The scene shifts back to Ethan, where we see the man on the airbot telling him, "My man is about to arrive, but until he does, let's keep talking." While the man is speaking, Ethan tries to locate him by listening carefully to the background noises in the call. He realizes that the man is sitting nearby and eventually spots him, a figure wearing a black hat. Ethan feels a glimmer of hope, thinking the man isn't watching him directly, and decides to try another clever move. Ethan takes the boarding pass of a passenger standing in his line and uses an invisible pen to write a message on it. He then hands the boarding pass to a police officer. Riley, however, becomes aware of this and alerts the man Ethan is speaking to. When the police officer heats the tip of the pen on the boarding pass, the hidden message becomes visible, warning them of the danger. The police are informed and prepared to alert others. But at the same time, Ethan notices that the man in the black hat has disappeared from his seat. Unbeknownst to Ethan, the man reappears and deliberately collides with the police officer. In the process, he does something that causes the officer to collapse. Before a crowd can gather, the man retrieves the boarding pass from the fallen officer. Finally, Ethan gets a clear look at the man's face, the same man he's been speaking to all this time. It's none other than Marco, the man we saw at the beginning of the movie. Marco is the one who went to Roberto, retrieved the suitcase, and set everything in motion. Marco sits down next to Ethan and examines the boarding pass. He reads everything Ethan had written and says, "You're very smart, but if you try to outsmart me again, your wife will die. If you love her, this is your last chance. If you make one more mistake, a single signal from me will end her life. Now go back to your scanner immediately. My man is about to arrive." However, another problem arises for Ethan. The supervisor has reassigned Jason to the scanner. Replacing Ethan, Jason tells Ethan, "You'll have to go and talk to the supervisor." When Ethan approaches the supervisor, he's told, "Look, there's a problem. A police officer has died, and the situation is serious. I need you off the scanner because you're not fully trained yet. Go and assist with searching the passengers." After delivering these instructions, the supervisor walks away. But Marco, who has been watching everything, intervenes. He says to Ethan, "You're not done yet. You need to get back to that scanner no matter what. If you fail, your wife pays the price." Marco tells Ethan, "You have to remove Jason. You have to go and sit on the scanner. Do whatever it takes to get him out of there. Otherwise, Jason's wife and children and your Nora's lives will be in danger." Ethan quickly devises a plan. To remove Jason, he mixes alcohol into a cup of coffee. After preparing the spiked drink, he takes it to Jason and says, "I can't find my phone. Maybe it fell under the scanner. Can you check?" As soon as Jason bends down to look for the phone, Ethan swaps his coffee with the spiked one. Once the switch is done, Ethan says, "Never mind, maybe my phone is in the drawer." He walks away, leaving Jason with the altered coffee. Meanwhile, Marco approaches the supervisor and informs him about the alcohol in Jason's coffee. The supervisor confronts Jason inspects the coffee, and confirms the presence of alcohol. Jason insists, "This isn't mine," but the supervisor doesn't believe him and fires him on the spot. With Jason out of the way, the supervisor reassigns Ethan to the scanner. Now, the main scene begins to unfold. The man tasked with bringing the suitcase, named Mattel, arrives in Ethan's line. He's wearing a red cap and carrying the suitcase. Ethan's job is to scan the suitcase and let Mattel pass without raising any alarms. The scene then shifts to Alana, who is carefully analyzing the damaged recording. After repeatedly listening to it, she uncovers crucial information. The recording mentions a Russian-made poison, a highly dangerous weapon capable of creating chaos and killing countless people. This poison is so lethal that it can turn any environment into a death trap. Back at the airport, Mattel places the suitcase on the scanner, and Ethan begins inspecting it. As he checks the contents, he realizes it contains some kind of weapon. While Ethan doesn't fully understand how the weapon works, he knows it's capable of wiping out the entire plane. He also connects the dots, realizing this is the same Russian poison Alana was researching earlier. Overwhelmed by the gravity of the situation, Ethan rushes to the restroom and starts vomiting. Marco follows him and warns, "Don't try anything smart. Let the suitcase reach the plane. If you interfere, your wife dies." Ethan pleads, "The plane has 100 people, wives, children. Why do you want to kill them?" Marco coldly replies, "I don't want to kill anyone. I'm just doing my job. Don't stop me, or you'll be complicit in this sin too." The scene shifts again, this time to a federal agent named John, who arrives to assist Alana. She explains her findings about the Russian poison and requests further investigation. At the same time, Tom rushes in and informs Alana that a security guard named Ethan had made a 10-second call to the police from the airport but didn't respond. Tom also mentions that a police officer died of a heart attack at the same airport. Hearing this, Alana grows suspicious and decides to head to the airport to speak with Ethan. However, since it will take time to reach the airport, she sends a team of police officers ahead to secure the area. The police arrive and shut down all security lines and checking points. To put it simply, the situation is escalating rapidly, and Ethan is caught in the middle of a deadly conspiracy. There was an emergency situation, which is why the supervisor instructed everyone to conduct thorough checks on all passengers. Seeing an opportunity, Ethan uses his quick thinking once again. He takes the supervisor's machine and inputs Mattel's name into it. After entering the name, he discreetly returns the machine to the supervisor. Once everyone disperses, Jason confronts Ethan, calling him a mean and deceitful person. Jason had figured out that Ethan was the one who spiked his coffee with alcohol, leading to his dismissal. Ethan remains silent, knowing he had no choice but to protect Nora. Meanwhile, the supervisor, acting on the information Ethan inputted into the machine, takes Mattel into custody. When Marco sees this, he becomes furious and demands to know what's happening. Ethan, panicking, says, "I don't know. Please forgive me. I can't support you anymore." With that, he removes the airbot from his ear and sprints downstairs. Nora, his wife, works downstairs, and Ethan is desperate to get her out of the airport. However, as he reaches her, he notices a laser light pointed at Nora's head. Riley has a sniper trained on her, and Ethan knows that any wrong move could cost Nora her life. Terrified, Ethan quietly puts the airbot back in his ear and retreats to the restroom. Moments later, Marco storms in and begins beating Ethan relentlessly. "I've warned you again and again not to make mistakes, but you keep messing up," Marco shouts. As Marco pins him down, Ethan pulls out an electric gun from his pocket and points it at Marco. Marco, unfazed, smirks and says, "You still don't get it, do you?" He then takes out his phone and activates the weapon inside the suitcase. "In 10 minutes, there will be an explosion," Marco declares. "There are 60,000 passengers here. All of them will die. The choice is yours. Do you want to save your wife and let 60,000 people die? Or will you stop this and risk her life? Go to your supervisor, retrieve the suitcase, and I'll tell you how to defuse it." Ethan, realizing the enormity of the situation, rushes out of the restroom and heads to where the supervisor has taken Mattel. Bursting into the room with his gun drawn, Ethan points it at the supervisor. However, he hesitates to pull the trigger. Seeing this, Mattel grabs a pen and attacks the supervisor, creating chaos. Ethan intervenes, hitting Mattel and shouting, "Why did you do that?" Mattel, desperate, explains, "My brother's being held captive by them. I had no choice. I need to save him." Marco, still communicating through the airbot, guides Ethan step by step on how to open the suitcase and defuse the bomb. Ethan carefully opens the suitcase, revealing the deadly chemical weapon. Beneath the chemical, he finds a button. Following Marco's instructions, he presses it and the timer stops. The immediate threat is neutralized, but the danger is far from over. The scene shifts to Alana, who is on her way to the airport with Federal Agent John. As they travel, Tom calls Alana with urgent news. "The federal agent sitting next to you, John. He's not who he claims to be. The real John is elsewhere. Be careful." After discovering the truth about the imposter federal agent, Alana pulls out her gun and points it at him, demanding to know who he really is and why he's here. The man, pretending to be John, responds by suddenly accelerating the car, trying to destabilize Alana and snatch the gun from her hands. The car swerves violently, and in the chaos they crash into a barrier, resulting in a horrific accident. Both Alana and the imposter are severely injured, but when the man regains consciousness, he lunges at Alana, attempting to strangle her. In a desperate struggle, Alana manages to grab her gun and shoots him, ending the threat. Meanwhile, at the airport, Ethan is following Marco's instructions and heading to the cargo area with the suitcase. Marco, however, forces Mattel to speak to his brother, who is being held captive. After the emotional conversation, Marco coldly tells Mattel, "Now, you have one last task to complete." Reluctantly, Mattel pulls out his gun and begins shooting at Ethan. Ethan narrowly avoids the bullets, ducking behind a glass partition that shatters from the impact. During the chaotic shootout, the suitcase falls to the ground and disappears into the shadows. Mattel continues firing wildly, but in a tragic twist, his gun jams and recoils, causing him to accidentally shoot himself. As he collapses, Ethan rushes to him, but it's too late. Mattel is dead. Ethan takes Mattel's phone and tries calling Nora, but she doesn't answer, likely busy with her work. Desperate, Ethan leaves a voicemail for a trusted friend who also works at the airport, warning them that Nora's life is in danger. When Nora finally reads the message, she frantically tries calling Ethan back, but he's unable to answer as he no longer has his phone. By this time, Alana arrives at the airport and immediately confronts the supervisor, demanding that all operations be halted. Meanwhile, Marco, realizing the suitcase is missing, begins searching for it. He spots Ethan and without hesitation shoots him in the leg. Ethan collapses but manages to crawl away, determined to protect Nora and stop Marco. Marco taunts him, "Just give me the suitcase and I'll let you go. I don't want to hurt you." But Ethan, despite his injury, refuses to back down. Ethan eventually leaves the suitcase behind and escapes, but Alana catches up to him, pointing her gun at him. Ethan pleads, "I have to go. My wife's life is in danger." He pushes past her and reveals everything about Marco's plan, including the deadly chemical weapon and Riley's involvement. Alana, though skeptical, begins to piece together the gravity of the situation. Meanwhile, Riley is closing in on Nora. She manages to hide in the parking area, using her wits to outsmart him. When Riley finally corners her, Nora grabs a nearby bottle and smashes it over his head, stunning him long enough to escape. Just as Riley recovers and prepares to shoot her, Ethan arrives and tackles him. In the ensuing struggle, Riley is shot and killed, not by Ethan, but by Mattel's brother, who had been held captive by Riley. When Ethan tells him about Mattel's sacrifice, the man breaks down in grief. Despite this small victory, the danger isn't over. Ethan realizes he must stop Marco from boarding the plane with the suitcase. However, it's too late. Marco has already boarded. Fortunately, Ethan had earlier switched the barcode on the suitcase with one from another bag, ensuring it would be flagged during scanning. When the suitcase is scanned, Ethan is able to track its location to a specific plane. Ethan tells Nora, "I can defuse the bomb. I've done it before. You need to find Alana and tell her not to stop the plane. If they try to ground it, the bomb could activate." Nora nods and runs off to deliver the message, while Ethan sprints toward the plane, which is preparing for takeoff. Alana, unaware of Ethan's plan, is on the phone with airport security ordering them to stop the plane. Nora reaches her just in time and urgently explains, "Don't stop the plane, let it take off. If you try to ground it, the bomb might detonate. Ethan is on board, he's defused the bomb before, he can do it again." Reluctantly, Alana relays the new orders and the plane is allowed to take off. Inside the cargo hold, Ethan locates the suitcase and begins working to defuse the bomb. However, Marco soon discovers his presence and confronts him, gun in hand. "You just don't know when to quit, do you?" Marco sneers, shooting Ethan in the leg again. Despite the pain, Ethan continues his work. The gunfire alerts the pilot, who decides to turn the plane back toward the airport. In a final act of defiance, Ethan places the suitcase inside a freezer, buying himself some time. When Marco opens the freezer to retrieve it, he finds the suitcase empty. Ethan had already removed the chemical, holding the deadly substance in his hands. Ethan stares Marco down, ready to end the nightmare once and for all. Ethan, despite his injuries, musters the last of his strength to push Marco into the freezer. As Marco stumbles backward, Ethan throws the container of the deadly chemical inside and slams the door shut, locking it from the outside. Marco screams in agony as the chemical reacts violently, drying up all the blood in his body within seconds. His cries fade, and the freezer falls silent. The plane, now under control, makes an emergency landing back at the airport. As it touches down, a swarm of police officers surrounds the aircraft, guns drawn and ready for any threat. Alana arrives at the scene and intervenes, ensuring Ethan is freed from custody. She recognizes his heroism and the sacrifices he made to save everyone on board. Ethan, limping and battered, makes his way to Nora. The two embrace, tears streaming down their faces as they realize the nightmare is finally over. Despite the chaos and danger they endured, they are together, safe and alive. The airport, still bustling with holiday travelers, begins to return to normal. Christmas music plays softly in the background, and the festive atmosphere slowly replaces the tension that had gripped the place. As Ethan and Nora walk away hand in hand, they join the rest of the airport staff and passengers in celebrating Christmas. The day is filled with laughter, joy, and gratitude, a stark contrast to the terror they had just escaped. Now, there's one piece of the puzzle I haven't shared yet: the reason behind the bomb plot. The target wasn't just random, it was a high-ranking Russian officer who was on board the plane. This officer, a woman, had been leading a relentless campaign against terrorism, making her a prime target for Russian gangsters. They wanted to eliminate her and send a message to anyone who dared to oppose them. The entire plane was collateral damage in their ruthless plan. This revelation adds a layer of depth to the story, showing how Ethan's actions not only saved innocent lives, but also thwarted a larger, more sinister agenda. With this final piece of information, the story comes to a close. And that's the thrilling story of Carry On 2024, a high-stakes, action-packed Netflix movie filled with suspense, emotion, and unexpected twists. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth movie explanations and reviews. What did you think of Ethan's heroic actions? Do you think Marco got what he deserved, or was there more to his story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned for more exciting content. And until next time, keep watching and keep exploring the world of cinema. Thanks for watching.